for his AG to prosecute. And Kristen Welker also asked him about other Americans that did not vote for him. Take a listen to what he said.
I want to ask you, sir, one final question. What do you want to say to Americans who didn't support you in this campaign?
I'm going to treat you every bit as well as I have treated the greatest MAGA supporters. There's never been anything like MAGA in the history of this country. These people are so dedicated to making America great again. It's very simple. And I'm going to treat them just the same as I treat MAGA.
And Anna, one of the things that wasn't so popular, both among his opponents, but also some Republicans as well, was his promise to pardon some of the January 6th rioters. Well, he told our Kristen Welker that he plans to pardon them on day one, Anna.
Okay, Dasha Burns, thanks for ticking through all of that for us. Matthew, back to inflation and the cost of living, which were the two top issues, really, that helped Trump win. What are the political implications if prices do not come down? In fact, maybe they even go up?
The political implications are awful. But first, happy holidays to you, Anna and Dasha and Victoria.
You too.
As you go through it. Thank you. I mean, I think this combination of the tariffs and of what he plans to do on with immigrants could be death knells to our economy and decimate it. One, it will raise prices, as we all know, and all the data shows. And the history of tariffs, as the last time we did any big tariffs was back that forced us into the Great Depression or contributed to the Great Depression. And I think his ideas on immigration are going to sort of hurt the ag industry, hurt the hospitality industry, hurt the construction industry. And so I think he has to be very careful. I think there's going to be cooler heads will prevail at some point in this, because I think if he's given the data and shown that this could really hurt the economy, he's in for a real uphill climb in getting anything done by Congress.
And I just want to expand on what we heard, Victoria. Another topic the president-elect touched on was vaccines and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who he's picked to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. Here's some of that exchange.
Let me ask you about RFK Jr. He has obviously talked about his skepticism of vaccines. He's expressed opposition to childhood vaccines. Do you want to see childhood vaccines eliminated?
If they're dangerous for the children. Look.
So possibly?
When you look at some of the problems, when you look at what's going on with disease and sickness in our country, something's wrong.
Are you talking about autism?
Well, if you take a look at autism, you go back 25 years, autism was almost non-existent. It was, 1 out of 100,000. And now it's close to 1 out of 100.
Victoria, there's no evidence of a link between vaccines and autism, as hundreds of studies have found childhood vaccines to be safe. What does this signal to you about what we could expect from the Health and Human Services Department in a second Trump administration?
So what we're seeing is the bubbling up of a lot of the movements that we've seen in different states across the country, both blue and red, in terms of vaccine hesitancy. But it hadn't gotten to the point of the federal level where you had a national figurehead really putting forward these ideas now in the form of an RFK Jr. So I think this is really where we're going to see where the United States as a country lands on this, whether they decide to stick with the science, stick with the data, or allow it to be an issue that is up for public opinion debate, right? So I think that's one piece of it. When I think about RFK Jr., though, however, obviously we think about vaccines, but it's also a mismatch with, there's that piece of him, but he's also very much about natural foods and organic foods and limiting the number of preservatives. So there's going to be some really interesting bedfellows here in terms of more traditional Republicans who don't want government interference in what you do and what you eat and what you take, and an RFK Jr. So it's going to be a brave new world that we're entering in everything, and especially with regards to the realm of health.
Yeah, Matthew, how much of what Trump's laying out is concrete policy plans versus just maybe fan service to his base and those that may be skeptical of science and government, et cetera?
Well, that's a great question, Anna, because I think one of the answers he gave in that interview on healthcare was, I have concepts of a plan. So I don't think he has a lot of detail. And I think people go too far into hyperbole, I think, on so many things. other than the things he's announced he wants to do, the specifics. I think we have to wait and see. I have a feeling, and Donald Trump is much more interested in the performance art of this and how it comes across as opposed to actually what happens. As much of, I think, what he's going to do that people find dangerous and troubling is going to be symbolic. It's going to be small acts that sort of get people riled up, but don't actually achieve the ends he says he wants in this. And so lots of details missing. And I don't think Donald Trump really wants to fill in the details. I think he's much more interested in the performance art of the symbolism than he is in actually accomplishing policy ends.
One thing I noticed, Victoria, in that interview was there was less combativeness from Donald Trump. And as we heard when Kristen asked, what's your message to Americans who didn't vote for you? Trump said, quote, I'm going to treat you every bit as well as I've treated the greatest MAGA supporters. Should that provide reassurance to voters who may be fearful of a second Trump administration?
It was indeed a surprisingly conciliatory tone, especially if we think back to his victory speech on election night. We didn't see that conciliatory tone. So, I mean, I think that does give hope. We all agree that this country is terribly divided, and all of us want to, or at least most of us want to come together and heal those divides. So I hope that this is the direction that we're going in, because I do think that there is a true hunger. And also in terms of turning the page, an election was won by a President Trump, rather than looking back and seeking retribution, hopefully focusing on the future and not looking back.
Victoria DeFrancesco Soto, Matthew Dowd, thank you both. And still ahead, we'll delve into another portion of the Trump interview. American citizens deported. More on what Trump is saying about potential immigration plans. And we'll talk to a dreamer about the stakes. Plus, law enforcement widening their manhunt in the death of United Healthcare CEO. We have the details. And breaking overseas, celebrations in Syria as the Assad regime collapses. What's next for the war-torn country and the region? We're back in 90 seconds.
The future of cool, comfortable sleep is here. Introducing the new Sleep Number Climate Cool Smart Bed, the only smart bed in the world that actively cools and effortlessly adjusts to both of you. Sleep up to 15 degrees cooler on each side. It actively cools by drawing warm air away from your body to keep you cool and comfortable throughout the night. Our smart sleepers get 28 minutes more restful sleep per night. And now save 20% on the new Climate Cool Smart Bed, plus free home delivery. Shop a Sleep Number store near you.
Morning Joe, weekdays 6 to 10 on MSNBC. Get the latest updates on future MSNBC live events, thought-provoking conversations, and insider perspectives while building your MSNBC community. Scan the QR code on your screen to sign up today.
Back with breaking news right now in the investigation into the killing of a healthcare CEO in New York just last week. I want to get right to NBC's Tom Winter with new information. Tom, what are you learning?
And reflecting the reporting of my colleague Jonathan Dienst and myself, two senior law enforcement officials say a man has been taken into custody in central Pennsylvania, specifically the Altoona area, and is being questioned by law enforcement. NYPD detectives are en route. In the course of their investigation, they found a gun similar to the type of gun that was allegedly used during the shooting last Wednesday in Midtown Manhattan when United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was shot and killed at approximately 6:46 a.m. So again, again, repeating the news, there is a person that is being questioned by law enforcement. NYPD detectives are en route to Altoona, Pennsylvania, because an individual there was picked up and taken into custody for having a weapon that is similar to the type of weapon that was used. You'll remember from all of our reporting last week and this weekend, a very unique weapon that was used in the course of this shooting. So is it definitively him? That work is ongoing. That's the reason why we wouldn't be putting out a name just yet. But as far as this investigation goes, it appears that they've had perhaps their most significant break to date. However, it's going to require a little bit more work. And as we said on NBC Nightly News last night, they still have to do a lot of work to match this individual to the evidence, and they'll need to do that as well. So a lot of moving parts here this morning, but wanted to bring the news to you just as soon as my colleague Jonathan Dienst and I had it, which is, again, a man has been taken into custody in Altoona, Pennsylvania, the central part of that state, and he's being questioned by law enforcement there and soon NYPD detectives because he had a weapon that was similar to the type that was used in the Midtown shooting. That's all we have for now. We're going to continue to work on this, Anna, but that's what we have.
And Tom, stay with me, if you will. I want to bring in retired NYPD officer Jill Snyder. Jill, first, your thoughts on this new development.
I knew it was going to happen sooner or later, and I'm really glad that someone hopefully picked up the phone and called 911. Again, this is breaking news. We're all just hearing about it now. Police are en route. NYPD is en route to question the person of interest to see, and again, finding out that there was a firearm that was very similar to the firearm used in the shooting. I mean, that's just really impressive investigative work.
And Tom, we're looking at images of the person of interest, of the suspect in some of these surveillance videos. There were also images we were showing during your last answer where we saw the suspect in these new pictures inside a taxi cab, or this person of interest inside a taxi cab, and another shot outside the taxi cab. What more do we know in terms of additional evidence and clues that developed over the weekend, and what may have tipped the police off that he had, in fact, fled New York City?
Right. So the last video camera that they have, and I'm going to apologize, Anna, because I'm texting, as you can imagine, my phone right now looks like a zoo. But I think at this stage, I would look at this as a significant development in the investigation. That's reporting from Jonathan Dietz and myself, some additional reporting. This is a significant development in this investigation. So that's what we have. As far as where the trail went cold, it was on video surveillance at the Port Authority bus terminal. Now, there's two in New York. Most people know the one near Midtown. This is the one near the George Washington Bridge, way up in Manhattan, and that's where they last lost him. Where he went from there, there was really no sort of evidence that tied him to a specific place. If this arrest was made by the Pennsylvania State Police, they coordinate very well with the NYPD, with their partners at the New Jersey State Police. They would be on top of this, and they have a terrific police and investigative body, particularly in that type of state. I know some of the people that have been involved in this over the years because they investigated the sexual abuse by former Penn State football coach Jerry Sandusky. The state police put that together. So just to give you a sense of their investigative skills, but at this point, this is what is believed to be a significant development. Again, not confirmed definitively it's the suspect, and that's the reason why we're not putting a name out at this stage. But it does appear that they've at least gotten their first break. Whether or not it pans out in an actual arrest, well, we'll soon find out.
Yeah, so Jillian, again, the breaking news right now, police are questioning a man in Pennsylvania, in part because he was found with a gun similar to the one used in the shooting. I'm curious your thoughts in terms of what types of questions law enforcement will be asking this person, and what, more broadly, are your questions this morning, knowing what we have in terms of evidence and clues that have been gathered up to this point?
Well, over the weekend, the only real thing that we saw develop was 2 extra photos come out in New York City from the taxi cab and up by the Port Authority in northern Manhattan. So, like I said a few minutes ago, the way in which the Pennsylvania police most likely were able to find this person of interest was through a phone call, through a tip, because I haven't heard of anything else, and Tom hasn't mentioned it either, anything that would lead us directly to believe